My brother and his family are known as America's cheapest family. Now, the reason that they're known as America's cheapest family is because my brother Steve, when he married his wife Annette 30 years ago, right out of college, they were poor as dirt. They developed a lifestyle of frugality and living within their means that continues to today, and consequently, they've made a business out of it. Now, some of you may have seen them. They've been on just about every daytime talk show except Oprah since 2005. They've been featured on a number of news websites, and they've written a couple of books. Now, Steve and I come from the same stock. Our parents were children of hardworking Greek poor immigrants, and they instilled in us some cheap qualities. Well, whereas my brother's business is all about teaching you to save money, my business, Greenline Emeritus Consulting, is all about teaching you to save time by working smarter. And that's what we're here about today, about using telepresence. Hyung told us about these wonderful case studies of people and companies saving time by using this technology. My name is Theo Economides, like economy, and well, with a name like that, talking about saving time and saving money just goes naturally with our blood. So that's why I'm here today, and that's why you're here, to learn a little bit more about this thing called telepresence. What I'm going to do in the presentation is talk a little bit about what telepresence is made of. And this is more than just hardware components. This is the kind of the philosophy behind this technology. So before we get into that, I'd like to know a little bit more about you folks. Give me a show of hands, if you don't mind, for who's involved in broadcasting in one form or another. I would expect to see a lot of people like that here. Okay, good. And how many of you are more on the technical side of whether it's broadcasting or whatever you do? How many geeks have we got in the audience? All right. And how many non-geeks have we got here that just are here, you want to learn a little bit more, don't need to get all the geek talk and the technology in your head? How many of those have we got? I'm friendly to everybody, so we're going to have a good time here today. Tell me, how many of you have already experienced an immersive telepresence room? One of these rooms with lots of screens where the people appear really life-size. How many of you are using that in your own organization? Okay, great. Great. And how many are using traditional video conferencing, the point-to-point system, some of what Hyung talked about? All right, good. We've got a pretty high level of participation in this technology here in the room, and that's really good. I'm going to move that out of my way. I can't see you guys. Okay. Great. Well, I came to the world of telepresence from broadcasting. I started out way back in the day with my high school radio station. Now, I had an on-the-air show once in a while, but our format was top 40, and I just felt like playing reggae once in a while. And I got kicked off the air pretty fast and stayed with engineering ever since. So that's my background. Now, before I got into broadcasting, I was actually the president of the AV club back actually in junior high before this. So I got my start early on, and eventually, when I got to the university, went to Texas A&M University and started working with the folks at KAMU there, where as a student worker we were involved in broadcast TV and NPR, and later on as a full-timer back in the early 90s when I came back to work, not as a student worker, the educational broadcast services at Texas A&M included NPR, PBS, and now video conferencing for distance learning. All right, so getting on to telepresence. The term itself has been used in a lot of different ways that are honestly kind of confusing to me. But at the heart of telepresence is the concept of it's like being there. And the elements of it that make it, that are right here, and I want to give a little credit to my colleague Ben Feynman of Internet 2. He provided me with this graphic. But take a look over on the left here, the visual presence. This is the advent of high-definition television broadcasting and that coming into the video conferencing world has made it possible for us to get a really clear image of the people on the other side of a video conferencing connection. It gives us better ability to have eye contact. The keeping of similar colors in these immersive telepresence rooms, colors of the walls, similar furniture, making the room on the far end look like just a continuation of the room that you're in, is this concept of visual congruence. Add to that some spatial audio presence where when someone walks from one side of the room to the other in a traditional video conference, the audio on your side just comes maybe from above, speakers in the ceiling, maybe it's from speakers in the front, but as they move, the sound doesn't move with them. One element, one value of telepresence is bringing in that spatial audio recognition. So when someone moves to that side of the room and talks, I feel like the sound is coming from that side. And of course, the audio quality being critical, we all know, I think, that when the audio works, you can communicate. If you have bad audio but good video, it gets really annoying. And when you have howling audio, it gets really annoying. Hey, all right, sweet. So these are the telepresence values. And honestly, regardless of the hardware, regardless of all the rest of what makes this stuff happen, if this stuff happens, I'm calling that telepresence. So a good high-definition connection with a single monitor sitting close to me on my desk with good audio could be considered telepresence. So they call that personal telepresence. Sitting in an immersive telepresence room where all these values, again, are there, yeah, I'll call that telepresence. Honestly, I don't tend to like marketing fluff, and to me that's what this term telepresence has become in many aspects. So for me, associating telepresence with these values makes a lot more sense. And then when you find a way to realize those values in your video conferencing room, that to me is genuine. So an immersive telepresence room can look like this. My first experience in a telepresence room was one of these Polycom systems. Now, to make the eye contact happen, that's one of the interesting critical pieces of where do you put the camera so that it looks like you're looking at the other person right in their eye. Well, the camera, ideally, if cameras could be invisible and sit right in front of the screen, that would be a perfect place for them. Well, Polycoms come really close. They put the cameras behind the screen, and there's a little hole right about there that the cameras peek through. It's just a few inches wide, a couple inches tall, and it's that little gap in the screen is pretty unobtrusive. We'll see another picture of an immersive telepresence here. I think this is a Cisco room. The cameras are sitting right up here. So as you can see, the camera comes pretty close to the heads of the people on the other side of the connection. So that's another way to do it. Cameras sometimes below, sometimes above. Anyone who's been around video conferencing for a while knows that camera placement it's always a compromise. And with telepresence values of eye contact, you've got to find a better way that's not so much of a compromise so that you can get that critical eye contact. Personal telepresence, like I was mentioning. So take a look. In this picture, this guy's head is about the same size as that guy's head. That's pretty good. That gives that visual presence that we were talking about earlier. Now, one of the kind of newest telepresence entries, I saw this robotic telepresence back in October for the first time. And honestly, when I saw it, I thought, come on. Are you kidding me? Robotic telepresence. It doesn't really feel like I'm there. But no, it's okay. This has a kind of a different realm in that it actually now makes a body, a person. It gives this thing the ability to walk around and move around. So what does that do? You can get better eye contact because it's going to roll right up to you and say, hey, how are you doing? What about the spatial audio? Well, that person's face is going to be right there all the time. The sound just needs to come from his mouth. And as that robot rolls around, that's what it's doing. The sound's going to come from that guy in that little robot. So we've got all of those same elements that can work, even though it's kind of a unusual presentation when we're used to sitting in a conference room or at our desks and having a screen and all that other stuff. So, yeah, Vigo and a couple of other manufacturers are making robotic telepresence. I got a funny story. I have a networking group in Chicago that I'm a part of, and in there is a gentleman that works with a company called Senior Helpers. And after I saw this Vigo presentation, one of the suggestions of the manufacturer was, wouldn't this be great for kids that have aging parents, to check in on them, to be able to see how mom and dad are doing. I thought, well, that sounds like a cool idea. I'll tell my friend Jonathan of Senior Helpers about this, because what he does is provide non-medical help to aging folks that need somebody to drive them around, maybe someone to bring them a meal. And I thought, this could be a cool thing for him to add. So I showed him the glossy flyer, and he said, you know, Theo, I'm not sure that some kids really want to find their parents in their house sitting on the commode. And I thought, you know, there are some places where this technology just doesn't belong. So, one thing that I've noticed, again, is that in this progression is that I've grown up around technical people. I'm a geek myself. I got degrees in electrical engineering. My old boss, Wayne, is in the room here. He's the chief engineer and the director for technology at Educational Broadcast Systems in College Station, Texas, and surrounded by great technology and people who talk that language. And as we got through this world of video conferencing, that's what we talked about too. We talked about resolution, the bandwidth used, what are the protocols, what's the compression, what's the codec. But you know something? I've noticed something in this last year as these systems have gotten better and better. The geek speak is going away, and people, my engineering buddies, are now talking about the experience of being in a video conference or in a telepresence room. They're talking about experience. And you know, I thought about that. At first, it was very strange for me to talk to other engineers about what does it feel like to be in this video conference room. But what's happened is that as the technology has improved, it's removed the distractions that we talk about. Is it a 2-monitor system? Is it a 1-monitor system? We talked about those things. Now we talk about what does it feel like to be in this room. The technology's gotten so good, it's removed the distractions so that now we can talk about about human factors.